Where's David?
He went to the restroom.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So I don't know where to start. I mean,
Start at the beginning.
How much did you weigh when
it
you
was
were
a
born?
dark and stormy
She's a character, isn't she? Yeah, I think y'all all are.
So I was born in 1946, and Mom and Daddy lived. Daddy had been in the Air Force, and Mama and Daddy. Well, okay, let me tell about how they met. So, Mama.
I may have to correct you though.
Man, they always have to add something.
You might get it right. We'll see.
I will get it right. It might be a different version. Okay, so Oakland is a little town about 10 miles from here.
You can get a pull out.
That's
we
where
came through there off of the 55.
so y'all came that way.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were going to come this way, and we were talking, and before I knew it, I was on 55.
Well, so when Mama and her sisters were in the Mississippi Children's Home, and sometimes I get choked up when I tell this story. So anyway, Anne, of course, being the oldest, she must have felt a really almost crushing responsibility for the little girls.
Mm-hmm.
And she did her best to take care of them. Now, I don't know, I had ideas about how their life was before they went to the Mississippi Children's Home and how their life was afterwards that are probably not necessarily accurate. But my impression was that they had a really rough go of it, maybe even before their mother died, maybe. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, that era and that time and location.
They were poor.
They were poor, and
they were
so
poor. Yeah.
you just make do.
Yeah. And so my understanding is that the maternal grandparents kept them for a while, and that they, for whatever reason, they felt like they weren't able to keep on doing it. I don't know if it was health or money or what, but anyway, my understanding, and I got this from Anne, was that their father remarried, and that the new wife had boys, had some boys already, and that they didn't. I don't know that they were ever like physically abusive to the little girls. I don't mean that, but Anne said that the way she remembered it was that the stepmother would cook, and she would feed the boys and the father first, and then if there was anything left over, she would feed the little girls. And Anne said that your mom almost starved to death, and that the reason that she lived was because Anne would chew her food and give her some of hers. Have you heard that?
We've heard
No.
that story.
They couldn't afford baby food, so
Yeah.
she was so young she couldn't chew for herself, so
Yeah.
Anne would chew and give it to her
Yeah.
to eat.
My
Yeah.
mother
Pretty
came up
sad.
to the Delta, to Silver City, to a couple that wanted a boy, but they brought my mother. And she was 18 and a half months old, is what Mother told me. And then those people, they wanted a boy. And there was nothing wrong with her, but she was a girl, and
Yeah.
they wanted a boy.
Yeah.
And May and Frank Watts, they were friends of him, and they wanted her,
Mm-hmm.
and so they took her.
Yeah.
She was never legally adopted.
No, Mama wasn't either.
Yeah.
None of them ever were.
Oh,
Yeah.
never legally.
I didn't realize that. I thought Laura was.
Well, I mean, everybody thought she was, and she probably thought she was too. But for a long time. But anyway, I think we have come across letters and everything, and I think maybe one reason why she wasn't was that Mama Hattie, her adoptive mother, felt that she didn't want to call attention to her. She was afraid that there would be somebody that would want money or that they would try to stand in the way of it. But I don't really know. I mean, I don't know why that was, but she might as well have been adopted. I mean, she inherited, and you know, she was treated as a fully biological child. But anyway, so I don't. Bud may know more. How long was Mama in the children's home?
I don't know,
I don't know either. I think
but not long.
not that long.
I do know, but I forgot. She went in. What you remember?
Was
She
it
went
just a
in.
few months?
She was only just a few
I
months.
think it was just a few months.
I thought it was less than.
She went in December and came in and was placed in March. Maybe is that?
Oh,
right?
I thought it was
December,
longer than
January.
that.
I don't think so. It's just a few months.
Well, anyway, so Anne, I'm sure she was the little mama, and she tried to keep the little girls together in the children's home. And Anne told me that she remembered, so the day that the caseworker, I guess you would call her, came to take Mama out of the children's home to come and meet some prospective parents, adoptive parents, Anne said she didn't really understand where they were taking her. And she remembered looking out the window of the children's home and Mama walking away with the caseworker.
Isn't
So,
that sad for those
it's
girls?
so sad.
And my mama remembers that too. That she heard something, and she turned around, and Ann was on the second floor landing at the window, beating on the windows and screaming, and they would have taken Mama down the sidewalk. Mama was about 4.5 years old.
Yeah, 4.5 something.
It
like that.
affected her very greatly. She was a stern person.
Anne,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. And,
yes, yes.
Mother, of course, being younger, and she knew that Anne. She kept up. She knew where they were in the system. Somehow she knew.
did.
She came up. I didn't always approve of different things that she did, but you know that.
Yeah.
She kept a watch on them.
She did.
She knew where
She
they
did
were.
her best. And so Mama and the caseworker got on the train and they came to Oakland. And it was, I guess, late in the day, and Mama was supposed to come over to Charleston and meet the people that were thinking of adopting a child. I have my own theory about like what happened there, and it may not be right at all. But so anyway, they were going to spend the night at Oakland before they came over here, and Mama Hattie had a room and house, and so I think that's why they went. You know, they went there. A lot of people that came off the train went there, and so Mama got to talking to the caseworker and asked her, you know, the story about Mama and everything. And she told her, and she said she was bringing her over to Charleston to meet Mrs. Weinstein.
A Jewish family.
So
A what family?
A Jewish family.
a Jewish
Oh,
family.
okay.
That she was coming to meet Mrs. Weinstein and possibly that Mama would be adopted. And I don't know, but I mean, Mama wanted to know, first of all, one of the first things she wanted to know from the caseworker was Mama born out of wedlock. She needed to know that.
That Mama
And she-
Hattie wanted to know that.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Mama Hattie wanted to know, was she born out of wedlock? And then she also wanted to know, was this child a Christian? And she said that she was. And so
How old was she?
Four and a
Mama,
half.
four and a half,
Four and a half, and she was a Christian.
something
Okay,
like
okay.
that.
Okay, whatever.
And so I think you know, probably it was mixed, complex reasons. I think Mama Hattie and Daddy Mac realized they weren't going to have children, weren't going to be able to have children. And so I think that was part of it. I think she fell in love with Mama. But I also think that she didn't want to have a Christian child raised in a Jewish family. That's what I think, but I don't know.
Okay, well that's good.
Good,
So-
good bad sister she was.
What?
Good Baptist.
Oh yeah, yeah. Anyway,
Because she was in a group of people who started the Baptist church in Oakland.
Oh, okay.
Mama
Yeah.
Hattie was.
Oh,
She
okay.
was.
Okay.
Okay.
and of course we never knew her. She died before any of us were born.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I know a lot about her, and then I don't know. There's a lot that I don't know
Sure,
too.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but Mama said that she remembered going into the sitting room in the rooming house, and and that she saw Daddy Mac in there. And how Mama knew this, if she was only 4.5 years old, I don't know. But she said that he was sitting in his easy chair and he was reading a magazine called Argosy All Star. And I don't know how she knew that. She might have been able to read.
She was a very smart woman.
She was.
Very
She actually,
observant.
She was very.
she was
smart.
very smart. She graduated from high school when she was 15
Oh, okay.
and went to college.
Okay.
But anyway, so she ended up not coming to Oakland.
Charleston.
And then not to Charleston. And then later on, the adoption lady brought another child over to Mrs. Weinstein, which I think turned out to be Juanita Weinstein. And she grew up here. You didn't know her. And then Mama and Juanita were in a bridge club together. It's like a Faulkner novel. Anyway, so that's how Mama came to Oakland, and I probably wouldn't even be here if none of that had happened, you know.
Yeah.
So it'd be
Right.
somebody else. But
Yeah.
so then Mama grew up in Oakland, and she had just what I think was probably an idyllic childhood.
I always said she was a princess.
I don't think that she wasn't pampered exactly, but she
Except
was,
by Daddy Mac.
huh?
Except by
Oh,
Daddy
yeah,
Mac.
Daddy Mac, I'm sure
He just
spoiled her
doted
to
on her,
death.
just
Yeah,
wormed her.
I'm sure.
Just wonder.
But anyway, Mom Hattie was a very strict disciplinarian, and she made Mama really study a lot, and Mom had a beautiful voice, and she made sure that she got her voice trained and learned music and everything like that. And Mama graduated at the top of her class, and graduated early. And so then she always had a knack for, I don't know how I'm her daughter, but she had a knack for figures and bookkeeping. And I'm not anything like that. But she worked in banks typically, and so she worked in the bank in Oakland, but then she went to Greenwood and worked in the bank over there. And I'm all right about that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
And
she went to college a little bit.
yes,
MSCW.
I'm sorry. Yes,
went
she
to
did.
the
She went to
W.
MSCW.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't.
she didn't like it.
She didn't
she
like
told
it.
me she didn't.
I don't think she liked it at all, and so she came home and went to work. And I think she taught some, like tutored,
Okay.
but she mainly liked to work with figures and bookkeeping. And I think when she was in Greenwood, that Ann suggested that all the girls get together, and Mama. I don't think she really knew. It's not like she didn't know that Ann and Ruby and Francis existed, but that she didn't know much about them, and she didn't have many memories, and so of how it was when they were together. And I just don't know, but anyway, so she said yes, they all agreed to meet in Greenwood, and they met somewhere in a coffee shop or something like that. But
Probably the
apparently,
Crystal Grill.
probably was the Crystal Grill. Probably was the Crystal Grill. And I think, if I remember right, Mama told me that Ruby came in the door and looked at him and just turned around and walked out, and she never saw her again.
Really?
Mm-mm. I don't know.
This shocked her or something?
I don't know. I don't know if it was too emotional for her, or what it was. Or maybe, I don't know. Maybe there was something that put her off. I have no idea. So anyway, then Mama went back to Oakland and started working in the bank there. And Oakland was a really busy little town then. You know, the train stopped there, and it was the way people got off the train to come to towns in the Delta. They had to go through Oakland first.
Okay.
By the way, I did get to meet Ruby.
Did you?
I did, yeah. She
Tell
was
us
a
about
small. She was a smaller lady, thin. We had gone. Me and Mom and Daddy had gone to see Aunt Ann and Uncle Buford there on Pelahatchie Lake,
Mm-hmm.
and so we went to Liberty, Mississippi, where they lived, and so you know, Ann and Buford and Mother and Dad and I, and we went and visited with Ruby and her husband. Her last name was Buck.
Yes.
Ruby Buck.
Yes.
No, Duck or Buck. Well, anyway,
I thought it was Bob.
it could have been Buck. So we visited the entire afternoon, and Kathy had married, I guess. And she was not there, but she was supposed to come, but she couldn't make it, so we didn't get to meet Kathy until years later, you know. And but I did get to meet Aunt Ruby. And of course, the way they died, Mother, the youngest, died first, Aunt Ruby next, Aunt Laura, and then Aunt Ann finally. So the youngest to the oldest died
And
in
the
that sequence,
husband,
in reverse order.
Yeah.
So I did get to meet Ruby that one time.
Interesting.
I was probably 14, 15 years old, maybe.
So she did have contact with your mother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, through Ann.
Through Ann.
Through Ann.
Through Ann.
Yeah.
So Ann kept everything going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, Mama was in Oakland and she was working in the bank, and then my dad was grew up in Arkansas and Texas, and he went to the University of Arkansas, but the Depression came along right about that time, and so he wasn't able to continue school. You correct me if I get anything wrong, bud.
Well,
I'm not worried.
He'll correct you. He can ad lib.
Yeah.
I kind of butt into that. Are we firstborns? No, you were the baby.
He's the
Young boy.
baby.
You're the baby.
He's the babiest
baby
one.
too.
It's all for the babies.
Y'all are good people.
yeah, thank you.
My baby brother, he's good.
So you were the oldest.
But I'm the oldest, yeah. And Mom and Daddy, well, so he was selling insurance. No,
Buying cotton.
buying cotton. Well, he did go through a period of selling insurance.
Later on.
Later on, I guess. But he was buying cotton. Okay, so that's what some of his uncles did in Texas. So he kind of grew up knowing.
He and Uncle D were selling cotton in North Little Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came to Memphis.
Yeah, but Uncle D was in Memphis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they lived in Memphis, and Uncle D went to work for the
That's
family company.
That's right. So, so then he came. Would you remember what his business was when he came? Like, was he headed over to the Delta?
No, he was advised to go to Oakland because there's nobody around Oakland buying cotton.
Oh, okay,
And so he came down to Oakland to buy cotton.
okay. So anyway, he got off the train and he saw this woman walking down the street, and she was
Do I did
she was whistling. Mama could whistle.
She
Boy,
could
she could
whistle.
whistle. She could sing. She could whistle. And he said, I don't remember who it was. Was it Uncle Vernon Bailey? But anyways, this older gentleman said to Dad, he said,
That's a whistling hen.
mm-hmm.
That's a woman told him that.
A woman. I
Yeah.
thought it was Uncle Vernon.
Uh,
But anyway, said, what was it?
Whistling.
throwing cock and a whistling
Oh,
hen.
no, something about the cock, but it wasn't a crow. No. Whistling cock and a crow and hen both will come to no good end.
Close.
Well, something like that.
Come on here.
That was Cal.
Anyway, that was like, I guess, considered not ladylike to whistle. But anyway, so my mom was on her way to the bank, and so Daddy got off the train, and he had to have a rooming house, so he went to Mama Hattie's.
Well, let me say
Okay,
something.
let Bud have this.
He got off the train, and Oakland was just a little small, little small place. Had one row of stores there, and the train pulled away, and he was looking around. And he said, "What am I doing here? What have I done? I've come down to this little." He's 22 years old, and I've come down to this little podunk town, and what am I doing here? And he saw Mama coming down the sidewalk whistling, and he admired her coming down the sidewalk, and she went into the bank, and he thought. He's related this to me firsthand. He said, and I thought to myself, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. That woman right there, that girl's that's who I'm supposed to marry. And
Amazing.
and then she went in the bank. And so he went across to the main store there, which was open Mercantile.
It's Jenny's story. Oh, Jenny's
Yeah,
story.
Jenny's
It's a true
story.
story, but Bud done took
You'll
it
sit
over.
over there.
Now, Bud actually knows more about this than I
You'll
do.
sit here about
So
it.
he said that, he said, well, that's who I'm supposed to marry. And she walked in the bank, and Daddy walked across the open Mercantile, and walked in and introduced himself to a clerk there.
Oh, yeah.
And his name was Aubrey Herring. And so Daddy introduced himself, and Aubrey introduced himself, and he says, "You're G.C. Trout?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "Did you go to the University of Arkansas?" And Daddy said, "Yeah." He said, "You pledged KA?" And Daddy said, "Yes." He said, "How do you know all this?" He said, "Because I know who you are." And he said, the magazine, the KA magazine, whatever it was called, had come out that year and said the KA had inducted or pledged a bird and a fish, and it was Aubrey Herring from Mississippi State and G.C. Trout from University of Arkansas.
Wow.
And so I know who you are. And Daddy, so they hit it off, And Daddy said, "I'm new in town. I've come down here to buy cotton, and but I don't know where to stay." And he said, "Well, I can tell you where you can probably stay." He said, "There's a boarding house up the railroad here, up the sidewalk, and we're kind of kin. And you tell her when you get there that Aubrey Herring recommended it to you. If she's got a place, she'll put you in. You may have to sleep with somebody, double up, but she'll have a place for you probably." So he went up there, and she let him have a room that he had to share with somebody. And she said, "Now we serve supper at 5:30, or whatever time it was, probably 5:30. But anyway, she said, "And don't be late, because we don't serve at one time, and we don't do anything special. It's just suppers at 5:30, and that's when you come eat." So he got there early, and got at the table early, and he was sitting there, and everybody came in, sitting down, and here comes this young lady walking in to eat supper, and it's Mama, and she was a young lady sitting down, walking down the street, and there she was whistling, and there she was fixing to eat supper with him, and that's how they met.
They started dating after that. He just decided to stay in Oakland.
Well, I don't know how that came about, to tell you the truth, the dating and the scene, but that's how they met. And Daddy stayed there that fall, I guess, and buying cotton. And then he lived in Memphis, and he was living in Memphis with his uncle. And they got, that was 1932. And they got married, I thought 1939, but that thing at your house at Beverly Mays got 1940.
Well, yeah.
40 sounds about right, really. Not that I knew them, but I'm talking about my parents and all that, and all of that was right in that neck.
Yeah.
Didn't
My
y'all
parents-
married 38?
37.
37.
No, September the 26th of 1937 was when Mother.
Francis and Guy got married.
Yeah.
Well, they got married February the 3rd, either 39 or 40. I've got to find out because I thought it was 39 all these years.
Well, I kind of want to lean toward 39 because I thought Mama told me, even though it does say 1940 on there, but Mama told me, I think I remember her telling me that they were married 8 years before I was born.
Well, they was married 7 years
And
before
that
Betty was born.
Yeah, it
and
would have
so
been 7.
37 and 44 there,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Isn't that
But anyway-
something? And y'all were both for girls first.
Yeah.
The best.
But anyway, then Daddy went into the Air Force. And of course, the war came along. I think I'm trying to remember. So he was stationed at Alexandria first, and
Louisiana.
in Louisiana, yeah. And Mama went down and lived down there too for a while. And it had a big influence on her because she always was influenced by New Orleans cooking after that. But anyway, and then I think Mama Hattie got sick, I believe. Well, I know Daddy he went to Denver for training for. He became a meteorologist in the Air Force, and he got sent to Greenland, and so he didn't see combat. But I guess it may have been because Mama Hattie got sick, or it may have been because he was going to Denver. Do you know?
Well, I know Daddy Mac died in 1939.
Yeah, Daddy Mac
and
died.
Mama Hattie died in 1942.
Yeah. So,
Were they like in their 70s when they died?
Daddy was 69, and Mama was
85.
85.
She would have been 86.
Yeah.
Yeah, we came to her funeral and she
Yeah.
was buried in Oakland, wasn't she?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, let's see. Then I was born, and Mama had an interest in, like, her mother had an interest in this farm, and so it passed on to Mama. It came down through Mama's mother's side of the family,
Okay.
and passed to Mama. And I don't think Daddy really wanted to farm, but I remember at one time, Bud doesn't remember this, but he did buy cotton here in Charleston for a while, and there was a building that's not there anymore, and I remember seeing a sign when I was a little girl saying G.C. Trout cotton buyer. Wish we had that sign, but we don't. And I remember that Mama was so put out with me because I thought I was like really smart and I was learning to read. And I said, "What does G-C-T-R-O-U-T spell?" Anyway, so
Did they build this house?
yes, yeah.
They did.
So they lived in Oakland for after I was born for 4 more years, I guess. But if Daddy was going to farm, he needed to be over here to supervise, and so.
But he had an insurance agency here for a while.
Yeah, he did. He had an insurance agency.
But did they live in Oakland in a family home over there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was the house that was not the only house that Mama remembered living in, but they built that house in the 1920s. What was
Yeah.
the year?
I don't really remember.
Yeah, but anyway, in the 1920s.
I can't remember right now, but
Oh, so
21 maybe?
something like that. Well, anyway, and I love that house. I still remember it so clearly. But in fact, that house had a birthday a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And the lady that lives in it invited us to come for the birthday party.
Maybe it was 22.
100-year-old birthday, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But anyway, so they lived in that house over there, the little house across the road, for a little while, and Daddy didn't he didn't like living there, but because it was so close to the road. So they moved uptown, rented a house while they were building this house, and then so we moved in here, and this is where Bud and Tom Roy and I grew up. This is probably the only house that you remember, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Bud was born when we lived over in that house.
yeah.
And of course, I remember him. I remember him in his crib in the hospital,
at that house.
and I remember him in his crib over there. And so we grew up here, and Daddy farmed, and Bud started farming when he was about 13 with Daddy, and graduated from school here. And Bud and Tom Roy and I went to Ole Miss. I went to MSCW for a semester, but I didn't like it. I really didn't have any business going to college at all because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I
Just a
never
waste of money, wasn't it?
never did figure it out. Never did. But after I graduated from Ole Miss, I worked for a year, I think, in the Head Start program. And then I went back and I had a few more credits to get, so I went to summer school. And then after that, I went to Memphis to the Baptist and became a respiratory therapy technician.
I said, what time were you there?
So I graduated, let's see, what?
And then
Paula Sykes.
Paula Sykes, I forgot what
Oh,
Paula.
Smith.
well,
Yeah,
was a
Paula
chance
Smith.
of-
Cal
She's from
lived
here.
in that house
Yeah.
for a long time.
Weldon Altman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few names that
Dog kennels are over
in
there.
another name.
So,
He moved to
and then now
Oxford.
Cal lives up in
And
Coldwater,
Becky
Mississippi,
Maxwell,
and
Becky Lee
Yep,
from
yep,
Bud
yep.
and
Inverness.
Dolores
that's
rent
right.
that house out to
Terry Maxwell's wife.
hunters.
Yeah.
Yep, she was
Or
from
whoever
here.
wants
She's
to
from
rent
up here,
it, they
Tippo.
rent it to.
Yep.
Cal has a quail hunting
Small
business.
world, isn't it?
What?
Sure is.
Start over.
Or start over where?
No, start, go.
About your nurse,
Oh, okay. So I went to Memphis to become a respiratory therapy technician, and I met my first husband there. Well, not in the hospital. There was a place on Union Avenue. I lived on Peabody
Oh,
Avenue.
okay.
Yeah, there was a place on Union Avenue called the Kettle,
Oh, okay.
and it was like a pancake house kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I would go. I generally worked 3 to 11, but not all the time. But most of the time I worked 3 to 11. When I would get off, I would go to the Kettle and I would eat bacon and eggs. And so I met my first husband there, and it turned out that he was an intern. He was a medical student, not an intern. He was a medical student, and he was doing a rotation at Baptist, and I smoked at the time. I'm sorry, but I did. But
Didn't we all?
I didn't. I mean, I tried it, and my friends and I tried it, and
you know,
I don't smoke dip. I don't smoke dip or chew, and I don't kiss no women that do.
He ain't got
so
I decided I didn't
I
need
put
it.
some money in the cigarette machine, and it didn't work, and I had a little fit. Beating the cigarette machine, and so this gallant, tall young man came up and asked me if he could help me, and so he did. He gave me a cigarette, and we talked, and we drank some coffee together, and then he said he was doing the rotation, and so I ran into him again in the hospital, and we talked in the hall, and then so this was January, I think. I had been to Mexico when I got hired. I think it was in the fall and at the Baptist. I don't remember exactly the month, but I had told them that I had already paid money to go on an archaeological tour in Mexico, and that I needed, if I needed to know if they were going to allow me to go before I took the job. So they said they would let me go, and then I could come back and go back to work. And so, so I did, and so I think it was January. It that was in December, yeah. So in January when I met Bill, and then we started dating, I guess, pretty soon after that. And he was graduating in May, so he asked me to marry him I'd known him about 3 months, and I thought, gosh, what is Mama gonna say? I'm not.
What is Mama gonna say?
So she came to Memphis and she met Bill and she approved of him. And
That's all her fault. She,
yeah. So
she was charmed too. Huh?
so we did get married, and we put our wedding together in about 3 weeks. We were married in this room in front of that fireplace,
Oh.
and we had it was a very small wedding. We had people from all over town donated roses for it, and the house was just full of roses. And so we got in the car and went to Memphis.
Let me say something.
Yeah.
Dolores, when I told Dolores that you were marrying Bill Barber, tell her.
Oh,
I was just, what? Because I was a nurse up there, you
And
know.
she knew Bill, and Bill loved Dolores.
And I had met him, and I thought he is the only doctor I have ever run into that was courteous to nurses. If I went to change, he would come and say, well, he wanted to go change a dressing. I went to get the thing, and he would take it from me and carry it. You know, he was very
A gentleman.
and I was just crazy about him. And would you believe
She's
Bill?
Yeah. So anyway, and Bill was crazy about Dolores too.
Right.
Yeah, he was. So
Small world.
we got married and went to Memphis and spent the night and got all his things that he had in his apartment while he was in medical school. It was a cup and some books and a spoon or something. And all our
that
wedding,
took so long.
all our wedding gifts and everything, and put them in the back of the car and headed out for his internship in Knoxville. And we did a road trip too.
We have a
honeymoon. And so he did his internship in Knoxville, and let's see, then I got pregnant with our oldest. So I went to, I took classes, graduate level classes at the University of Tennessee in physical anthropology, and I was very interested in it, but then I got pregnant and I thought, I can't split my attention that way. I just can't do it. Mm-hmm. So, but plus Bill was ending that internship, which was not really compatible with him, and he decided to go to a different place to finish his internship. So we went to Macon, Georgia, and that's where Jamie was born. And we stayed in Macon, and then he finished his general surgery there and decided to go on to plastic surgery. And we looked at different internships, and he decided that he had a really good, there was a surgeon that he worked with in Macon that was brother to a plastic surgeon here at Duke. There at Duke in Durham. And he had a really good recommendation. He got accepted to the plastic surgery program there. And so we were only supposed to be there just for the for the plastic surgery residency. But they offered him a position, and he loved teaching at the college level, university level. So we ended up staying there, and that's where, John actually, our middle son, was born in Macon before we went there, but Johnny was a little bitty baby when we moved there. And then David was born in Durham, so that's our three boys, Jamie, David, and John. And I wanted him to look at some other options too. Just like I felt like they took him for granted sometimes, and I wanted him to not close off all his options. So he did. He looked at other things, and actually, he had decided he probably wanted to stay there, but he agreed to come and look at a program in Oxford, a plastic surgery practice in Oxford. And we were just about to come down here. I think it was, we were supposed to leave on a Tuesday. And that weekend, he had a car accident and he died. And so
Okay.
my plan was after he died that I would come back to Mississippi, but my children were teenagers, and my oldest son was a junior in high school.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I just can't take him out his junior year, right after his dad died. I just can't do it, you know. And so I bought a house, actually. I bought a house in Oxford. And I wish I'd hung on to it.
They worth a lot.
But that's probably the best investment I ever made, and I let it go. But anyway, so he finished school. And then when he finished school, John was a junior in high school. So I thought, well, I can't take John out. And then when John finished, David was a junior. And
Keep on keeping on.
yeah, so about 5 years after Bill died, I met Pete while David was still in school. What's going on with Genevieve?
She's been playing her.
She's been doing that a lot. She'll bump her knee. And
Oh,
one day it didn't bother her, and then she, after
then
that,
it's big drama.
Depends on how tired she is.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, right, yeah.
yeah. I'm kind of like that too.
Yeah, aren't we all?
Your boys have children?
Yes. So, Jamie, so all of my boys are in some branch of finance. I have no idea. They must have got that from Mama, because it's just totally foreign to me. And none of them were interested in medicine or anything like that. And Jamie kind of always knew he wanted to do something in finance. So he got his MBA, and he worked for he worked for Bank of America for a long time. Was he somewhere else before that? Well, he worked some private banks. Anyway, he went to work for Bank of America and was with them for a long time. And now he's with Morgan Stanley, and they live in Raleigh, about 40 minutes from us. And then John went to school at the American University in D.C., and he decided to stay in D.C. He came home for a little while and worked. I think he worked at Barnes & Noble and things like that. Then he went back and finished his degree and stayed in D.C., and he works for the National Board of Real Estate Investment Trusts. And I don't really know exactly what that is, but he's like a data analyst or something like that. And then David never school didn't click with him, so he went to college for a semester, and then he decided that he didn't want to go, and he went to Charlotte because that's where Jamie was. And Jamie got him a job, and they lived together for a while, and then Jamie moved on, and David was kind of well established by then as far as knowing about Charlotte and everything. He took a few classes down there, but he didn't finish. And so I found out, well anyway, so then David, while he was working like all these jobs and everything in Charlotte, he saw an ad for a job at Scottrade, and they said they wanted a finance or business major to come and be an intern. And he called me up. I was visiting here. He called me. He said, "I'm gonna see if I can apply for that job." And I said, "Okay, well that's fine, but don't lie to him. Don't tell him that you're don't tell him that you're a finance major or business major. I tell him the truth." And so he did, and he got the job, and he worked there and learned about brokerage accounts and things like that for a while. Anyway, long story short, he ended up, he works for Wells Fargo now. But he told me that last year, he said, he said, I've been working on my BA online. I've been working on my BA online for the last 2 years. I didn't know anything about it. He said, and I'm about to graduate next semester.
Wow, what a
So
surprise.
he did, and then I found out that now he's working on his MBA online. So he's supposed to get that next year, and he was doing okay without it, but I think it was just he wanted the challenge. He wanted to prove that he could.
Rather the competition.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there comes a point where when a new job is available, and there's a lot of MBAs
Yes.
already around, that you're even if they like you, they're not necessarily going to hire you.
That's
because
right.
They've got all these others.
Especially in Charlotte, which is a banking town.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so I'm proud of all my boys, and Jamie and Jill, his wife, they're in Charlotte, and they have 2 children, Cassidy and Will, and Cassidy's at Ole Miss now. She's a freshman at Ole Miss, and her birthday was yesterday, and so I went over there to see her, and then Will is 16, and John is not married and doesn't have children in DC, and then David is in Charlotte, and he has Evan, who's 8, and Emma, who's 6. And
We got an Emma.
Emma, yeah.
Yeah.
And Emma, Evan, well, both of my daughters-in-law, Jill, who's Jamie's wife, and Jenna, who's David's wife, are Catholic. I don't know how that happened, but it did. And so all of my grandchildren are Catholic. And Evan's first communion is this coming Sunday, so I'll be going down for that. Not this Sunday, but the next one. I'll be going down there for that.
How often do you come back to Charleston?
Once or twice a year, usually twice. I try to come twice a year.
Tell us how you and Pete met.
I was just about to drop back and tell that. So I have this friend named Jan, and her family owned a boarding kennel, and I worked there to help them out part-time sometimes. And Pete came in one day to bring his dog. He was going. I wasn't even working there that day. I was just there visiting Jan, and he came in to board his dog while he went out of town for some meeting that Dick was sending him to. And I was kind of in the back, and I didn't even have an interaction with him. And I looked up and I saw him, and I said, "Oh no, I'm gonna meet that man."
There you go.
Well, you didn't have.
$5,000 bill stuck there.
You didn't have a choice, did
But
you?
she didn't know it was good in the
What have you been sipping on that day?
Coffee.
Or smoking?
And you just went right along with it, huh?
No, he didn't know. He didn't even notice me. And I don't even know if he knew I was in there, because I was very in the back, and I was very distressed by that, because I didn't want to get married again. I wanted to come back to Mississippi and be with my family, and I just, So, but it turned out that Jan knew him, and that he was actually in the process of moving into the townhouse complex where she lived, and she decided that we would be compatible. Yes. So she introduced us, and so I never told him. I never told him that I knew I was going to marry him.
Still now?
I think he's
He trying to get that
He's sitting here smiling. He's blushing over there.
One of many.
You can't turn it off and on, can you?
No.
Pete?
It's on.
It's It's on all the
But
time.
anyway, so she introduced me to him, and we started going out together. And I would say it was not really smooth at first because I didn't. I mean, I was still kind
You
of.
didn't want to.
It was you know.
Just had to.
But.
It was 4 years after my husband died, but I was still very broken, raw, kind of emotionally. And Pete had recently been divorced, and he was not really past that either. So we had a little bit of a rough go there at first, and we, at one point, we just cut it off like that. You kissed me goodbye on 9th Street. That was supposed to be forever.
He has been a good kisser. I
Y'all are so romantic.
I thought to myself, I'm going home and I'm going to remember who I am, and this guy can just go wherever he wants to go. So I came home and I stayed about 3 weeks with Mama. And then I went back to Durham, and I didn't have any intention of ever speaking to him again or seeing him. I mean, I wasn't, like if I saw him on the street, I was going to speak to him, but not. So I'm riding down, I went to go get a biscuit one Sunday morning, and I'm riding down, and I look behind me, and here he is. And his blue blazer behind me, but not, it was just, I mean, he wasn't following me. He was following me because he was behind me, but he didn't,
Intentionally.
not intentionally.
So where were you going for a biscuit?
Yeah.
Where were you going for a biscuit?
Bojangles.
Bojangles, okay.
Yeah. So,
Did he follow you to Bojangles?
Christmas.
no, he didn't.
Okay.
No.
He didn't.
He was very studiously like he didn't. But eventually, like within the next couple of weeks, he did call me, and we did go out,
Also,
and here we are.
The
And
rest
he's-
is history, huh?
He's just the rock of my life.
And we all love
Love
Petey
Petey.
And that's the truth.
You got any
Does he have any
candy?
stepchildren?
You got the candy,
You have any
Petey. That's what
stepchildren?
the children is.
Oh.
Pete's son Mark has 2 daughters. Yeah.
Okay.
And so Pete and I got married in 2000, the year after Mama died. I brought him down here to meet Mama, and he passed.
I was
He
standing,
charmed
I
her.
was standing outside her bed, and I had met her for like 5 minutes. And she looked up at Jenny and said, "When y'all getting married?"
Oh my goodness. In other words, she gave you her blessing.
I guess.
Well, I wouldn't really call that the blessing, no.
But she have had like Fred Astaire movies, things like that.
Yeah, they like the same movies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he passed the test. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But Mama was really sick then. She was very weak and sick. But anyway, so we got married in 2000. We had a really, I thought it was a very nice wedding. All these folks came up to Hot Springs, North Carolina. We had a little bed and breakfast, and then Pete. There was some treachery in his. Well, first thing that happened was Pete had cancer right after we got married, and he was very fortunate in that his he didn't have chemo. He just had radiation, and it was just 3 weeks after he had surgery and radiation, and so that was a start to the marriage and an initial challenge, and then like almost immediately after that, there was some treachery in his department at Duke, and it resulted in him leaving Duke. And so he was there with he just recovered from cancer and didn't have a job. And we'd just been married, we just got married. But Pete's nothing if not resourceful, and he has lots of different abilities. And he decided that he would start a video business. He'd been, in computers all his life. And Well, I think we tried some other things first, actually. I remember we went to a small business. He was already decided he was going to do video, but we went to this small business seminar that was provided by local technical school. And the guy that was teaching the course, we were trying to get advice from him about how to set the business up, and he was trying to sell us something the whole time. He said, "Have you ever thought about prepaid legal arrangements?"
Good gracious.
He was trying to sell us on prepaid legal arrangements. You know, you could have done that. You could have been the prepaid legal arrangement tycoon. Hey, Genevieve, thank you. So anyway, but he started the video business, and I worked in it with him for a while. I mean, he's the technical person. I'm just like was the second camera. I did do some marketing stuff for a while, and then his mother's health was not good, and so I decided that the best thing that I could do was to take over her medical care and free him from having to take her to the doctor and things like that, which he's not comfortable doing anyway at all. He's not comfortable in a medical setting. So so that's the way we did it. And he did that until he decided to retire. And now you never really retire for a videographer. Did I leave anything out, darling? Wait, Genevieve, I didn't say you could have that.
Yeah, my daughter, Alicia, she said, "You better take pictures, you better listen up, you better get the stories, and we need videos." Oh, my daughter,
Yeah.
she'd be right here
Will
in
you
the
do us a
midst.
video?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we'll pay you for it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But,
Hey.
but
You just got business.
Now you got a new position, see?
hey, our daughter.
Well, I will warn you that Duke plays basketball in 22 minutes.
Oh,
I don't miss
So,
Duke basketball games.
Let's tell them a little bit we can kind of pitch in and tell them a little bit about Tom Roy's life, because apparently they're not here anymore.
Y'all do that right there.
I guess they had to leave. Anyway, Tom Roy and Beverly. So Bud and Dolores started dating in high school, and fell in love, and I had never been in love with nobody else. And Tom Roy and Beverly started dating in high school, and they got married. And Beverly went to Ole Miss, and Tom Roy went to Ole Miss, and then Tom Roy went to law school at Ole Miss. And he went into, after, I guess he was still in law school when he worked for the IRS, wasn't he?
Yeah,
In Atlanta.
Went to Atlanta and worked for the RS.
Yeah.
Then after school, he clerked for judge in Jackson
Yes.
for a year.
Yeah, he clerked in Jackson, and then they lived. He went to Greenville. They went to Greenville. Well, they got pregnant with Troy while he was with the IRS in Atlanta. And I remember that I was really a little bit put out because Tom Roy and Beverly got pregnant before Bill and I did. But we lived in Macon, and we got to see them some while they were in Atlanta. But I just always assumed I was the oldest and I would have the first grandbaby. Anyway, they lived after that. They lived in Greenville for a while, and he worked in the public defender's office there. Learned a ton. Oh gosh, he learned so much.
Probably not what not to do.
Yeah, yeah.
They lived in New Albany, didn't they?
And then they moved to New Albany. He went into practice with a friend of his from law school, and two other older gentlemen. That didn't work out entirely well because, just for whatever reason. But he learned a lot there too. And then he was in practice on his own for a while. Then he went into the DA's office and was in the DA's office. How many years?
You know, about total about 10 or 12.
Yeah, something
I
like that.
thought Beverly said he worked 12 years.
Something like that.
14.
Yeah.
Check it.
I believe you.
Would you
The
say?
family historian here.
You know it's 14?
I'm 99% sure.
District attorney.
Yeah, I'll go with Cal.
Oh, that's gonna hurt.
No, it doesn't, because I don't think you're right.
It was a period of a decade
Period
or
of
more.
time, yeah.
And so then
He ran for DA.
he ran for the district attorney, and thank goodness he didn't get elected. And then he went back into the public defender's office, which was really where his heart was all along, I think. And then he went back into private practice and retired a couple of years ago. Well, how many years has it been now? Probably.
I don't know, he went to Alaska in 18, and
It's my halo.
a year or two later,
He handled the closing of our house in 20,
yeah.
which I mean, he may have come in as a favor to Clark, who had disappeared, but he was there.
Yeah, I
I think he was still doing some
think
stuff.
maybe 19 or 20, he started phase out.
I like her
They,
dimple.
Thank
and
you.
Tamar and Beverly have they have 4 boys, and Clark is an attorney and was in practice with TR for a while. And Atkins works for the university. Troy is a school principal.
West
Yeah,
Union.
he's a West
With
Union
West
principal.
Union
West Union.
principal.
And Mac, I'm about forgotten what Mac does now.
It's a very good question.
He works for a trucking company. He's some kind of executive.
He does something, yeah, with
He's
logistics.
some kind of
yeah.
logistics with whoopsie. And he lives in Memphis. And then they've got a bunch of grandchildren. Let's see, Troy has 3.
Clark has 2.
Troy's first wife, Shelley, they had 2 little girls, and Shelley died of breast cancer. And then he, some years later, remarried again, and he married Katie, and they have a little boy.
Yeah.
So he's got 3 children, and then Clark has 2 boys, and Atkins is not married, that works for the university. Clark and Atkins are twins, and Mac has 2 children, Lily and Tom. I believe Lily's 12.
She would be 12 this coming week or next week.
And-
Beverly just told me that.
And Tom is 8. He's born on the exact same day as my Evan.
Cal,
So,
backing up that trucking thing, do you know the name?
and so now,
Well,
Bud, you the baby, so
just-
you get to talk
I
last.
probably could,
We got a grandson.
And you got
that works up
15
there
minutes
too,
or
and
10 minutes, Pete?
I
I can do it in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Go over there and do it.
I
IMS is who called